My name's Edie Barrett, and I live in Ortonville, which is next to the South Dakota border. I just attained my master's degree in public affairs from the Humphrey, graduating this past May. That degree focuses on leadership, research, and policy. Thank you. And I also took on a minor Bachman Center of Spirituality and Healing. My area of focus in my education was on integrative leadership and social change. So I'm running for Minnesota House District 12A because I want to prioritize civility and decency, as well as transparency, while honoring what it means to be in service to the needs of our rural area. Because I believe if we don't get better at simply being human, including finding our shared values and supporting what it means to be in community, it makes it very, very difficult to talk about complicated, challenging topics like gun control or abortion. My primary issue the other issue I want to bring up is supporting the freedom around women's health care rights.
Thank you, Mickey. I'm Natalie Copeland, and I am running for St. Cloud School Board here in St. Cloud, Minnesota, District 742. This is my second term that I'm running for, so I've been on the school board for the last 4 years. 4 very tumultuous years for everybody, but especially for schools. I am a community organizer and the executive director of Unite Cloud, a pro-love, anti-racist organization helping folks know, love, and stand up for their neighbors. And I know that my kids are going to be much better prepared for the world than I was growing up here, where the biggest difference was whether you were Catholic or Lutheran. And it's really a three-peat for our Somali neighbors. It's anti-Black, it's anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim. And so we have continuously organized around the fact that everybody belongs here and everybody should be able to, of course, survive and also thrive here in our community. One of the reasons I ran is I wanted to help get a GSA, Gender Sexuality Alliance, down into our middle school. And we were able to do that during my first 4 years. And so it was a lot of community organizing. I'd say community organizing really prepared me to be in office for sure. We see in central Minnesota, not necessarily in St. Cloud, but our LGBTQ students are under attack by parents, by community members, by folks from even outside our state and money from outside our state that are coming at our kids and our teachers with lawsuits, saying they can't have rainbows up in their classroom, saying they can't say the word gay or read a book about 2 men or 2 women who are with each other. And so it's just really a scary, scary time. I feel like we're going backwards, but I think St. Cloud is a bright light in our community. We're very clear about who is welcome in our schools, and that is everyone. Our goal really is to have at least one adult in every building that has a connection with one child. We hope it's many, many more, but that's really our goal, is that if we see that someone is connecting with a student, they'll know when something is going wrong, when something may be happening at home, what's going on with the homework, and then hopefully bring them over the bridge into a more successful time in their school career.
Yes, I'm Alicia Gibson, and I'm phenotypically white, but I am actually also Japanese American. And I think that is, as I get older, something that I realize is more important. I grew up in a house where the primary person that I was very bonded to is a Japanese immigrant. And I grew up in Oklahoma, and she married a man in which she had a tremendous amount of conflict with, who was a soldier that she met in Japan. And I would eventually go to get a PhD in comparative literature, cultural studies and comparative literature. And my dissertation was on the atomic bomb. While I was doing the research on that, living in Hiroshima, living in Japan, I realized that that was the argument that my grandparents returned to over and over again in their courtship. And so I do think that there's a way in which I was really born to embody these conflicts, right? That tear us apart, but that love can really transcend. What I do is I really try to show up in spaces and listen deeply and advocate for the things that communities are talking about, whether they are relevant or specific to my life or not, but that help advocate for community itself. Yes, some of my major issues would be reproductive justice. We've, I think, were in a little bit of a lull thinking, hey, we're in a post-feminist world, right? We got this. And I think the Dobbs decision really pulled the rug from underneath our feet and really enabled us to see that's not accurate. I ran for city council in Ward 10 of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And that has really evolved. Running for city council races in Minneapolis has really evolved to something more akin to running for a state legislative seat. The person who won the seat, I came in second, raised $150,000 and had been involved in political organizing for 7 years. The reason why I got involved was really some frustration before the George Floyd murder with city politics and how uncivil it was becoming. But when I had smoke coming in my windows, that was a really big wake up moment for me as a parent who had made a promise about being in Minneapolis as our city and putting down roots and really feeling those roots coming up out of the ground. Because the question is, how do you raise small children in a place in which the city is literally on fire?
I'm an Asian woman. I'm a Hmong woman, Southeast Asian, also a daughter of refugees. And so just very honored to be the Democratic candidate for Minnesota's House District 67A. That is the northeasternmost part of St. Paul. It's one of the most diverse districts in the state. We are minority majority. When I'm elected this November, I'll be the first woman ever to represent the district in the whole history of the state, which is surprising, but also not, and really sad in the entire, history of Minnesota. And I will also be the first Asian rep for the district too, which again, also very surprising for such a diverse district and a district that has so many Asian residents. Also worked on Capitol Hill for almost a decade for different members of Minnesota's federal congressional delegation, and was working for a member of Congress on January 6th. And so for me, it's a really unique perspective. There are a variety of reasons why I decided to run, including wanting to, implement a lot of the COVID money that we sent to the state, and also just wanting to, make sure that we still have a healthy democracy, right? It's, to me, really scary that a lot of the things that I learned about in comparative politics in college are really applicable now. We really are saving the soul of our nation this November. I was very lucky that I got so much out of the public school system, and I was a Head Start student. I was a WIC baby, and was really able to use all of those resources to become the person I am today, but realized that that's not the case anymore. And so equitable social economic development is really important here. Creating jobs, making sure we have ample, affordable, and moderately affordable housing, and also addressing education equity. I love that Natalie brought up that the last 2 years have been really difficult for our students, especially the kids in the public school system who are already behind, right? In my district, we have a lot of Title I schools. That means they're high poverty schools that get federal funds for extra support and for meals.
Magani Dug, Erika Bailey-Johnson, Indigenous Kajaga Nashiman, Abamengwe, Indigenous Kazo Ojibwe Mang Makwa Indodem, Abamijigamag Indonjaba. So my name is Erika Bailey-Johnson in English. I'm running for Minnesota House 2B. I don't know how to say that in Ojibwe, but I should learn it. And I am in the Bear Clan. I also said my Ojibwe name is Butterfly Woman, and I live in rural Bemidji. My full-time job is the sustainability director at Bemidji State University. I've been in that role since 2008. I received my biology degree from the University of Minnesota Morris, and I was a volleyball player. So athletics and education is a big part. I got a teaching licensure. My husband and I taught for 5 years internationally. We taught for 2 years in Mexico and then 3 years in Kuwait before we came back. I had my son at that time. The district that I represent is super rural. So I'm from Lake of the Woods County originally. I grew up in Williams, Minnesota, a town of 230 people. I grew up 8 miles south of a town of 230 people. Our nearest neighbors were a mile away. My dad was in the logging industry. I was an only child. My dad was a paraplegic. And so my mom and I did a lot of the physical work around the property. and didn't really realize until I was later how much that upbringing had to do with who I am and what I can bring to the world. That being said, I have a real responsibility to connect people to the earth. That has been something that I really do in my teaching at BSU, in my work, like in my community work. I was part of the Governor Committee for Pollinator Protection. So I am really dedicated to seeing the voices of the youth elevated. So I actually think that all of the things that you've mentioned already, that they already can see the future that you all see. They already have the answers, just they're not being listened to or at the table. Like it's amazing. Like even my youngest son, the way they talk about gender is not something I grew up with. Let me just say that, but it's just this fluid conversation. It's so different and it's so beautiful. There's a lot of like turmoil in between big changes. And I want to be part of getting us on a better path.